April 2019, PlayStation's amazing creation engine, Dreams, launched into early access. This marks a very important moment in my life. The coming years I'd release tons of games, work on tons of projects and overall have the time of my life. I'd finish college and the pleasure that came with it wouldn't even compare to the sheer joy Dreams brought me. In time, I'd master the engine, for my niche first-person shooters anyway. April 2023, it's announced that Dreams live server support will end. No more updates, and so realistically, no more growth for the platform. This hit the Dreams community hard, and I'm no exception. If you have no experience with Dreams, it's really hard to explain how invested we all were. Creating in this engine became part of my identity, part of my lifestyle, part of my soul. I was so dependent on it, detaching from it would come with extreme withdrawal. April 2024, 1 year since that devastating bit of news. Where I used to open Dreams literally at least once every day, at this point I hadn't opened Dreams in half a year. 2024 would mark the first year since Dreams became available that Intra Tech Out would not release anything to the world. Now for the longest time I still intended to keep making things, at least make one last game, release it to the world, but I just couldn't. As time went on and my life became busier and busier, I really felt that I had to use my time as productively as possible. Dreams was not going to carry me any further. I was on my own. And yet, I couldn't go back to living a normal life either. See, before Dreams came out, I spent all of my free time playing games. Then Dreams came out and everything changed. I got so addicted to it that I stopped playing live services and multiplayer games altogether. Only withdrawing from Dreams, temporarily, maybe once a year, to play a big AAA release. But after Dreams, my appetite for playing video games did not return. Dreams forever changed me. The thrill of creating was so great that having experienced it, the thrill of killing players, looting chests and winning matches just could not ever compare again. The result? I didn't just stop playing Dreams. For the first time in my life, I would have the latest gaming console sitting in my room and not even turn it on for months on end. And it gets worse. Not just did creating video games fill me with more joy and purpose than playing video games ever could now, creating video games filled me with more joy and purpose than living a normal life ever could. And so that leads us to April 2025, 2 years since the beginning of the end. Now, I had my social life now, and I had work now, and it was all great and was all fantastic, but not a day went by where I didn't miss Dreams. So many games continue to be made and released, and where I used to be on the front lines fighting for my own creative voice, all I could do now is sit on the sidelines and criticize the work of others. It's so weird to go from having the ability to make anything you want to not having the ability to make anything at all. My brain through all this time continued to stay in game dev mode. I still got ideas for games, I still got ideas for levels, mechanics, stories, art. The only thing that changed is that I couldn't do anything with it anymore. For 2 years I carried this curse, hoping it would get better. It never did. And so, April 2025 marked something else than 2 years since stopping Dreams and 6 years since starting Dreams. It was a new beginning. Yes, this April 2025, I started learning Unreal Engine 5. Why it took me 2 years to start this journey? Well, because PC game development is simply a lot scarier than Dreams game development. Creative software on PC is a lot more technical than Dreams and tends to completely gloss over the user experience. Where Dreams puts focus on making things immediate, readable, intuitive and satisfying, PC engines put focus on adding as much functionality behind as many menus as possible. PC game development is so much more technical, so much more daunting that I didn't even know if I was going to enjoy it. It would have been hard to enter this field even if I never had experienced Dreams in the first place. But somehow, being fluent in Dreams felt like it was going to make Unreal particularly miserable. So, for 2 years I procrastinated, not willing to put my brain to the test, and honestly, not willing to potentially have my game dev dream shattered forever, having to face the reality that I'm not made for this. But you can't outrun your destiny forever. A defining moment that broke through this stalemate came in February this year. A person I care about innocently asked me if I had done anything interesting the week before. I trembled. I couldn't even remember. In this moment, I suddenly realized what a husk of a person I had become without my creations. I was passionless, just living from day to day, no dreams about the future, no ambitions, no projects, nothing to share except my presence. This could not go on for any longer, there was no escaping it now. I had to give game development one more shot. And I knew Unreal Engine 5 was going to be my mountain of choice to climb. Now on this choice, the engine one goes for is always a point of discussion for starting devs, so let's quickly go over why I went for UE5 and not Unity or Godot. Godot I could immediately cross off the list. It's open source and very customizable. Which is awesome. if you're into that sort of thing, but I've learned through the years I'm not a tinkerer when it comes to software. I mean, come on, I prefer gaming on a PlayStation over gaming on a PC. I prefer Windows over Linux. I don't want to deal with customizing the engine in any way preferably. I want as many tools to be packed in as possible and just make my games. This left the fight between Unity and Unreal then. Here too, choosing Unreal became obvious for multiple reasons. 1. I want to make 3D games, pretty much exclusively. Unity can produce 3D games, no problem, but Unreal just feels a bit more geared towards it. 2. I like graphics. Again, both engines can produce great graphics. In Unreal it's just less effort because of its lighting system and the access I have to Megascan assets. 3. I don't want to learn how to code using a coding language, not yet anyway. Dreams uses visual scripting that I completely master. I won't throw that inherent advantage away when I have so much new to learn already. Unreal has a visual scripting system so advanced you can make complete games with it. 4. I've always kind of preferred AAA style games over indie ones. Learning Unreal gets me familiar with a pipeline that might be useful to me in the future if I do want to ever dare attempt joining a game studio. And then 5, the most important one, Unreal just speaks to me more. The UI, the vision, the approachability, it just seems more fun to me than Unity. Which is not a baseless accusation. I have tried both engines in the past and just didn't much like Unity's workflow. The only concern I had with Unreal is that, well, if you followed video game discourse, you might have noticed that opinion on the engine has soured greatly the last few years. A lot of UE5's core features, while making development easier for beginners like me, simultaneously result in a lot of ugly visual artifacts and way higher performance cost, in turn resulting in games that may both look uglier and perform worse than previous generations.
Base PS5's performance mode runs at between 720p to 1080p. There's disocclusion artifacts, an often fuzzy look to dense moving detail, and we're more realistically operating at between 30 to 50 FPS.
Not good, and I'm kind of frustrated with this whole thing as well, to be honest, from a gamer's perspective. That said, UE5's features do genuinely make development easier for beginners, so why not take advantage of it? I can use all the help I can get, and I'd rather make a poorly optimized game than no game at all. Besides, I think Unreal will have no choice but to fix these issues considering how widespread its use has become. So yeah, my decision had been made. Unreal it is. I want to take learning this program seriously. I'm not fooling around this time. The first thing I did is spend some actual money buying some actual courses. Learning from YouTube videos is not impossible, but inefficient from my experience if you're going to need a lot of information. YouTube has certain incentives. It incentivizes keeping tutorials broad so more viewers will watch and retention is maximized. It incentivizes a larger focus on glamour and spectacle instead of fundamental learning basics. Besides, I didn't want the YouTube algorithm to distract me by showing me other videos to watch, or God forbid, facing advertisements in the middle of an important section. A paid course felt right, it just made sense. So I went on Udemy, bought one of the most popular Blueprint beginners courses, and dragged myself to the starting line kicking and screaming. Years and months and weeks and days of procrastinating, it all led to this, day 1. Even on the day itself, I procrastinated. I felt sick with anxiety, I just didn't want to start. But somehow I got myself together and at 8:30 in the evening on the 2nd of April, finally made the first step. I opened the 210 parts Blueprint Beginners course and pressed play on part 1. What I did this glorious evening? Well, I installed the engine. And then gave up for the entire rest of the evening because that's how anxious I was. The next day though, everything would change. I woke up, turned on my PC, counted down 3, 2, 1 in my head, and without allowing myself to get anxious, just started. It worked. See, the advantage of tutorials and courses is that you're forced to take everything step by step. As long as the steps are small enough, there should never be a point where the next bit of information just feels impossible to learn. The hardest thing about learning something like Unreal Engine then is, like many things, not the act of learning itself, but the insane mental struggles you'll have to overcome in the process. For example, while working through the course, I needed 100% focus. Any idea how hard that is in our current world? I couldn't have a YouTube video open in the background, check my phone or talk to friends in Discord while working. I couldn't even have music with lyrics on. And then I wasn't creating anything of my own, I was just doing what the voice told me to do and taking furious notes in the process. Maybe it's more exciting learning Unreal if it's your first time, but being proficient in Dreams meant it was very annoying to start from the beginning again. I experienced boredom in the now while being anxious about the future all at the same time. It was hard. Now 6 years ago I also almost gave up on Dreams in the beginning, due to how steep its learning curve was. But there was a moment where I put my first bit of useful gameplay logic together in the form of an FPS character and everything clicked. I got the bigger picture. It's not like I suddenly understood the whole engine, that would take years. It's more like I crossed a threshold that suddenly allowed me to see what elements a game is made up of and how they come together. From that moment on, I became unstoppable. I wondered what it would take to get to that same point in Unreal, being able to make my own thing with deliberate intent. I was certainly not there yet. Sometime into the course, there came a point where I had to make a drone character shoot. I knew what I'd need in theory to make it happen, thanks to Dreams, so I set myself the challenge of making that system by myself. Because making a simple laser hit detection system was, after all, in Dreams, the exact thing that made everything click for me back then. In Unreal, well, I just messed it up, over and over again. Clearly not understanding vector math, clearly merging Dreams logic and Unreal logic in a way that just didn't make sense. Still, I refused to look up the answer. I had to fix and understand this myself. The shooting logic must have seen a dozen iterations as a result. Then suddenly, one moment, I understood. My last iteration was almost good. I just did something really dumb I don't even want to explain. A couple clicks and boom. Projectiles fly to where I aim. I recorded my immediate reaction. This is why I love game development. These moments where you make something and it actually works exactly how you intended are indescribable. You won't understand it until you do it. When developing games, I just have this continuous loop where one moment I'm the biggest genius that has ever lived on planet Earth, and the next moment I'm the dumbest idiot that will ever exist. I had one win under my belt now, but I was still essentially nowhere. April turned to May then. I was a month in, and only about halfway through the course. Around this point I did slowly start getting overwhelmed. Imagine a month of almost every day, one long continuous stream of new information. Every time I tried to do something by myself, the course told me what I did was wrong and I should instead do it like that. I knew Unreal must have some finite amount of features, but the knowledge stream showed no sign of slowing. Every time when I thought I couldn't possibly handle any new information, there'd be 3 crucial bits of knowledge dropped on me in seconds. Just like with Dreams, there came a point where I considered if I would ever be able to achieve anything in this engine. But I didn't give up, because the knowledge that I was able to push through this barrier in Dreams gave me the confidence that I should be able to do the same thing in Unreal. At the very least, I told myself I should finish this course. So another month passes and I'm finally nearing the end. The last section was by no means easier than the rest, but with the end in sight I made quick progress. And so, on the 3rd of June, 2 months to the day that I woke up and decided to go for it, I finally wrapped up the beginner's course.
I wish there's something great to say right now, but I really do not.
I was tired. Happy I'd done it, but also anxious again. I didn't actually feel like I learned enough. This can be the make or break point of learning any creative field. This moment where you know the basics, but little more than that. During this period, most tutorials will be useless to you. They'll either be way too simple or way too advanced. You're on your own for a while and somehow need to find a project that both excites you and slightly exceeds your skill level. Those two things are something I really believe in. Speaking from experience. You must start simple at the beginning, absolutely, but you must also make something you're passionate about. I like making first-person shooters, so I'm not going to start by making a 2D platformer. It'll feel like a slog. Start with making something you're passionate about and the chance you'll push through roadblocks is 10 times higher. So I needed to make something exciting. And I knew exactly what would excite me. Making something that I couldn't in Dreams. Now that would be the ultimate victory, wouldn't it? I specifically remember trying to make a grappling hook in Dreams that would allow me to grapple to moving objects. But it was impossible. Okay, rarely is something impossible in game dev, but I did have to cheat a bit to make this happen, rigging moving objects with custom logic to teleport the grappling point to a tag, moving along with them. A side effect of my implementation being that your grapple gets teleported to that specific point on the object, no matter where you grapple. I knew a perfect grappling hook would be possible in Unreal. because unlike Dreams, it has hit callbacks. I can essentially put a laser on a character and access information on any assets I hit, like their current location, or I can activate logic on them, like making them lose health. The fact Dreams does not have these callbacks gave me a lot of headaches making shooters. Anyway, I got to work. I started by making the raycast from the player's vision. Did it first try this time. Then, I just had to make the player move in the direction of the hit, which is simple. Joke. It's so much harder than you think. I spent so many hours with so many iterations of the logic. It did slowly become clear to me though, how much I had actually learned from the course. It's like everything I learned came in useful, which was awesome. Still, so many times I'd go into play mode and face a completely unexpected behavior of my grappling hook. I banged my head against this wall for 2 days. And then, just like earlier, suddenly realized something changed one bit of logic and went from a completely broken prototype to a functional mechanic. I leveraged the momentum of the achievement and within half an hour made the grappling hook work on moving objects and cancelable mid-air. Now, pumping with excitement, I started importing assets to work on my favorite thing in game design: game feel. I completely lost track of time and entered an adrenaline-fueled flow state. I forgot to eat, I forgot to move, I got completely lost in the engine. I added everything I could think of: a grappling gun asset, a grappling line, an aiming reticle, a Niagara particle effect on the initial hit. I even exported sound effects from Dreams, making my Unreal grappling hook sound the exact same as my Dreams one. Finally, I added my favorite game feel cheat code to achieving a feeling of impact: rotational camera shake. This is the end result. That marks the end of Chapter 1. It was a huge learning experience in multiple ways. I think what I end up being most happy with is the fact that I was able to get that same enjoyment in Unreal that I got in Dreams. That enjoyment and that passion and just satisfaction that I feared I was never going to get again. This grappling hook project just got my heart pumping and dopamine flowing like it hasn't in years. It was that moment I was looking for. That moment where everything suddenly came together and clicked. It's like I finally broke through the layer of clouds and was able to look ahead of me. And with the soft skills I learned from Dreams, I should be able to get a lot further, a lot quicker than someone starting new now. Well, at least if I can keep this up. Will I? Only one way to find out. You'll see. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around.